It never fails. Someone always asks me, "Hey Heather, what about?" And honestly, that's where the best conversations begin. I'm Heather Shaw, certified functional nutrition coach and Pilates educator. After walking through my own wellness journey, hello 80-pound weight loss, I now light the path through my program, The Plan, complete with protein forward recipes, hormone know how, and a lifestyle for longevity. This is the Exquisite House Pilates and Wellness podcast. Hey Heather, what about? We're diving into all things movement, menopause, metabolism, and more, especially the stuff no one warned us about. I tell it like it is, but always with a wink and a hug. No perfection required, just consistency, curiosity, and better questions. Served up with a side of sass. So today we're doing something a little bit different. I am talking to my partner in crime in the studio, Alyssa, and we are talking all things Pilates. So Alyssa comes with a dance background. She is an amazing mover. She is a mat teacher, and she is in process of going through the rest of her certification for all of the apparatus that we use in Pilates. And so I'm very excited to have this chance to chat with Alyssa about Pilates, her passion for Pilates, and why this now and all the things. So, Alyssa, thank you for being here. I'm so excited you're here. And I want to get right into the meat of things. Can you tell us a little bit about you, your Pilates journey, all of that stuff?
Sure, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Uh, so, movement has always been a part of my life. I started out dancing before I could walk, which then became competitive dancing. Then I was a dancer in high school on our dance team, and then I went to New York. I actually lived in the Rocket City Apartments and danced at Broadway Dance Center, which was really fun. I did off Broadway music videos, musicals, all that sort of fun stuff. We just take the train back and forth. And then I ended up going to school in Philadelphia, was on the dance team at Temple University while continuing to go back and forth to New York and doing some local things in Philly as well. Um, and then unfortunately, well, I kind of all along the way, but it got to a point where it was just too hard on my body. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, and I just kept dislocating my shoulders, my ankles. Everything was kind of happening at once. And at that time, I had also discovered fitness. It always was a part of my life, but I had gotten certified. I want to say in like 2008 as a group instructor as well as a personal trainer, and had already started teaching in Philly. I want to say it was like 2008, 2009, doing like butts and guts and Zumba and dance classes and different things like that. Pilates kind of wasn't super around yet. But I started learning about it right after I graduated, when I was kind of at the height of my rehabilitation, discovering Pilates around Philadelphia. Um, and everything just kind of clicked and I fell in love with it. Um, and I have moved around a lot, but what's been really nice is I've been able to find Pilates everywhere. And I'm just kind of, if you take a class with me, people like to joke that when you give us something extra hard, I get really excited. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be fun. And they're like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, yep, so excited. Let's do it. So
I don't relate to that at all. It's true that we, as Pilates instructors, like our idea of fun is completely different from everybody else's. We're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fun. And everybody's like, that was not fun. That was not even remotely fun. But I think
what's the next level? Layer on
right.
another thing. Let's do it.
How many props can we use in one class?
Exactly.
I think, speaking into that, I think the thing that's really amazing about how you teach and why you're such a compliment to our studio is that you come from a place of finding how this movement heals your body. And it's really been one of those things for you that I know you've had such a passion for because it allows for your body to move in a way that doesn't inflame the hypermobility as much as a typical modality would. And so I think that, really speaks to also that you approach this from a rehabilitative standpoint because you know the power of what Pilates can do. And I love that. I think, that really is kind of one of the foundational values of our studio is utilizing this movement as rehabilitation. So I love, and that's why I love that you're with us. Um, So, for someone who's new to Pilates, how do you describe this? Like, how do you describe Pilates to somebody who knows nothing about it?
To let people know that it was originally called contrology or controlology. And it's more about body awareness, understanding where you're moving in space, moving safely, pain free, sustainably. As we work through things, I like to tell people, um, you know, it's great to look strong, but it's more about feeling strong and feeling strong as we get older. Um, so if somebody had never taken it before, I'd say it's all about like lengthening and control. I tell them that I'd rather them do 4 correctly, with their form in the right range of motion. We don't want anything hyperextended, than 18 thinking, look how high I can get my leg, which really isn't working the muscles. It's not working, the proprioception, the deep, muscles, stabilization muscles.
Yeah.
And you're really just there to feel strong, and it's functional movement. So I like explaining to people that it's intelligent movement, not just exercise.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. And I don't think that people always think of Pilates as functional movement. I think, there's a lot of stuff out in the ether right now about Pilates doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. And yes, if you're doing the traditional work, it's challenging. It is hard. It's if we go through the repertoire of classical movement for us in Pilates, and there is a whole system, then we start to see that strength, but it's not quite the same kind of strength as if someone was strength training. And so for studios like ours, where we know that some people, this is the only movement that they have, then we go through and make sure that the movements that we're doing are functional enough that we're going to hypertrophy the muscles and build strength. And I love that for us. I think, even in mat, I think people have misunderstood the purpose of Matt. Matt was the original work. And so I would love to kind of have you go into that a little bit and talk about why you use props or why we have the apparatus, talking a little bit from that standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like to remind people in my class that as well, that mat was the original modality. It emphasizes control, alignment, joint stability, um, really that breath muscle connection. Um, is really important. And, it is a system, but Matt is the original. And what happened was this is rehabilitation, right? That's what Pilates was originally made for, which is part of the reason I love it. Um, but there were people who that were too injured to do Matt. So Joseph Pilates went ahead and he built the other apparatuses, the first one, and probably the most popular right now being the reformer. Um, and so I don't think most people realize that was for people who could not perform Matt, like, just originally in proper form. And, reformer is great, especially for somebody who is very fit, like, take my mom, but has had hip replacements and can't bend a certain way. She can't do mat moves because it's not right for her body, but, the more I thought about it, she could very easily safely do, especially chair, she could do reformer as long as we're not doing any crazy, range of motion, which I sometimes have a hard with because I just tend to go since I'm hypermobile. And I've been loving working with you because you're kind of showing me, like, hey, it only needs to be this far apart, or like your knees don't need to be this way. And I find that not only the next day am I feeling the correct muscles, but my joints don't hurt as much.
Yeah.
Um, so teaching people that, hey, you don't need to go to extremes to get results. I find myself I'm so much stronger and can literally hold a plank forever and have ab lines now as a mom of 2 at 38 more than I did when I was a professional dancer, lifting weights and, running around and eating 1,200 calories a day and, all that fun
Yeah.
stuff. Um, I feel a lot stronger, and that's what I was drawn to, and that's the love of Pilates that I try to share with people.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to go back to kind of what you were talking about range of motion. So, in a lot of times when people see people on the gram or they'll look on social, they're like, they see these giant movements, especially with feet and straps. And it's usually some, nubile former dancer who's come into Pilates and has fallen in love with it, just like we do. and they have a much larger range of motion than the average person. I mean, I when you are taking class, we see the contrast between a former dancer and an average Joe in class. It's like, and I say all the time, don't look at where her body is because she has a lot more mobility than you do. It doesn't mean that you're not doing it right. But we do pull
Exactly.
back, and I do pull you back, like if you're a student in class, because we want to make sure that we're emphasizing where the stability is coming from. So Joe always talked about our core is our powerhouse, keeping that powerhouse secure, keeping it stable. And then, especially with feet and straps, the goal is to keep that stabilization while your limbs are moving. And people forget that. They think that it's this big, grandiose gesture that you're supposed to be doing. And the reality is, no, we actually want you to hold your trunk still. And how far can you move your legs and still do that? And a lot of times it's a lot less, and it just changes how the Pilates shows up. We had um, a client this week who said to me, she said, "This is the first time," and she's been doing Pilates with us for months. She said, "This is the first time that I've been in class with you where I felt like what you were telling me kind of sunk in, and I started really feeling my body." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." It's so amazing when the lights go on for for a client, because I think they start to fall in love with it the way we do. And I love that. And I think that, for me, part of my um goal as an instructor is that people start to feel things in their body. And you and I both teach similarly in that when we're instructing and we're cueing people to move, we're talking through what we want them to feel in their body, where we want them to feel it, and then what the movement is on top of that feeling. So where they're kind of initiating the movement from. And I think that changes the quality of the practice for our clients. And I love that. I just, for me, that's kind of the magic of what we do.
Well, hey, if you've been nodding along to today's episode and thinking, I need more of this in my life, I want to personally invite you to subscribe to Inside the Plan, our private newsletter for folks in midlife who are ready to feel like themselves in their body again. Each week, I send real practical strategies to help you balance hormones, reduce inflammation, support your metabolism, and understand why what used to work just doesn't anymore. These are the same tools, tips, and mindset shifts I teach in my full program, and I don't share them anywhere else. So if you want to learn how to build meals that nourish you, support weight loss with or without GLP-1s, and feel like yourself again, this is for you. You can sign up at theexquisitehouse.com, click memberships and packages, then click inside the plan. I think you're going to love it. All right, back to the episode.
Alyssa, we've been talking about modifications and how, um, for people with pre-existing health conditions, we see benefits of Pilates, and we talk a lot about when we start to teach, we want to pre-qualify our clients. So at the beginning of our classes, we're asking our clients, we're saying, is there anything going on with your body today that I need to know about? Any kind of new injuries, anything that's different or changed, and or please remind me, help me remember which side of your body, because a lot of times we don't know our right from our left after we're certified. We forget to count, and we forget our right from our left.
Or how to count.
Right. We completely lose all ability to do either one of those things. But, um, all joking aside, there's an importance to that, but there's also, understanding how Pilates is, we also start to understand the benefits of what we're doing. So talk a little bit about that.
I think a lot of it, after I stopped dancing and even though I kept continuing to move, I weirdly fell into a job on Wall Street in finance and in technology. So I was on a computer, 70 hours a week, kind of hunched over, stressed out. And Pilates, as I've always done it, but the past year I've really rededicated myself. Now that I've been teaching so much and all of that, to my own practice, my posture and alignment is so much better. I ended up having spinal fusion surgery, and I think I came back like 3 months later, full force, like not a problem. And I think that was due to the posture and alignment of my spine and stacking my spine correctly, knowing, crown of head towards the ceiling, long tailbone, things of that. Another big thing is, since I've been doing this a long time, and it probably would have been better if I had done it fully, but especially having two kids and being hypermobile, my core strength and stability is the best it's been at 38 after two kids, which is kind of crazy. Um, so I think that's a testament all to Pilates. Mobility, flexibility. I think a lot of people don't know when you're hypermobile that, yes, that might mean my leg, goes over here, but that means in the other direction or in other, planes of your body, you're very, very tight because your body
Right.
freaks out. One goes too
Yeah.
long, the other one seizes up. And that's why we sublex and things. But that means that it's really important to balance the mobility and balance the flexibility. So I've noticed that's been huge. I have a lot less back pain because I'm very big about, thoracic twist and twisting from the chest and the waist, things of that sort. Um, Reduced pain, like I mentioned before, reduced injury, proprioception,
Mhm.
we're not falling down everywhere. Well, I still fall down sometimes. It's just who I am. But I'm falling a lot less. I once tore my ankle stepping off a curb, missed it. Um, and I haven't had things like that in a while. And I really put that up to Pilates and body awareness. So yeah, injury reduction is a big thing, body awareness, and then just feeling confident. I think that's a huge part of it is like the confidence that comes from not only the movement, but also the culture you practice in. Uh, people like to joke that I'm like the cheerleader dance team type, which totally appropriate. But, being there and the culture that you've owned and putting everything like, it's just such a great space, and that's why, I love all of it. I love all of it, so,
I
yeah,
know. It is.
some
It's
good
amazing.
benefits.
Yes. For you, now we've talked a little bit about this and we've just started down this road with you. Um, you know that our studio, we kind of tailor ourselves towards midlife women because we know that journey becomes a little bit more intensive the further along we get down the trail. And we've talked a little bit about that. Do you see for yourself some benefit as you're starting to go through some of perimenopause and the things? Are you seeing that the movement is helpful for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, now it's kind of I have a lot of friends talking about, the brain fog and the bladder leaks and there's so many different things, and I think to start, again, this is where that body awareness comes in, and I keep harping on it, but it's so important. A lot of people just don't understand where they feel things in their body or, notice when things change. And I think Pilates makes you so aware that you're able to notice the changes. So instead of being like, well, I'm not sure, I don't, I didn't catch it till it was too late. I just kind of was like, meh. We teach people to really tune into their bodies. So I've been able to kind of track those differences I've been feeling, which made it a lot easier to start having those conversations. And I'm actually going to see a pelvic floor specialist tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. But when I
Yay.
first went, yeah, I'm very excited. When I went to the doctor, she was like, I expected you to be way worse. Between, the Ehlers-Danlos and the two vaginal births, and my son literally came out cone headed. He was so shoved in my
Oh,
pelvis.
wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's round now, but he looked a little bit like an alien when he came out. Um, um, and just again, like the hypermobility I have in my SI joints and my spine, they expected me to be a lot worse. Um, and I think that's a testament to this work, focusing on the breath. When we say up and in, I like to remind everybody, like, pull up through the pelvic floor muscles. Everything is coming up and in. Use that powerhouse, use the strength. Building up that pelvic stability. A lot of what we talk about is pelvic stability. And I think a lot of people just don't acknowledge those things. And it's not something that comes across their vocabulary. So, I feel like, especially as I've really, really dove back into my practice over the past year, 2 years, I've really done myself a benefit of I'm already focusing on all of this. So I fully expect yeah, I'm excited to learn some things tomorrow, but I'm almost sure that there's probably not a lot I'm not doing already.
Well, you'll be
Uh,
surprised. You will be surprised. You know that I
yeah, I'm
spent some time
sure
in
I
the
will. I'll
pelvic
probably
floor.
be very humbled. I'm sure.
I think, um,
Yeah.
when I went to the pelvic floor specialist, and she's been a guest on our podcast, Robin Lowry, we talked a lot
Yeah, I
about the
remember that.
difference. Yeah, we talked a lot about the difference between hypo and hypertonic pelvises. And um, in Pilates, we're known for being hypertonic because we're so focused on our core. But I'll be curious to see like how this shows up for you. I'm very excited about the connection. And one of my favorite people in Pilates, Dr. Brent Anderson, has done a lot of work on connecting the pelvic floor function to our diaphragm, and a lot of how people that do Pilates have a much higher rate of function because of how we connect the dots with everything with our bodies. So it's very exciting to kind of, start down this path, although it is a little daunting at times, but I know you're going to do great. So we had to plug Brent because he's one of our favorite people. So, um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then for you, is there like, as we're talking about like all of the benefits of this, there's always client impact and kind of stories and encouragement and things. Are there any stories that you have that kind of make you feel like, oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite things. This is why I teach Pilates.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many little moments like that. I have I don't even know which one to pick, but there when I teach at another local studio, it's quite an older crowd. Um and I have women who showed up who are, I want to say somewhere in their 70s, and they warned me before class like I'm not going to be able to do this. My core isn't strong. And I'm like, "You know what? This will meet you where you are. I'll offer you modifications. If something doesn't feel right, raise your hand. I'll come help you." And they are there day in, day out. They are my biggest hype women. I like to call them my OGs. Uh, I am noticing such a difference in their core strength, in their mobility, like through their spine. They're able to almost get to their toes for forward stretch. It's amazing to see not only their progression, but I can see how much more confident they are in their movement. And it's really awesome. They've started to like bring friends, and most of them are like, "Oh, I could never do that." Um, they're like, "Oh, that's too hard." I see all the young girls doing that, and I'm like, "No, it is not. We absolutely not. Pilates is for everybody, and we will get you there." And again, I've heard stories of people having like they've left classes, and if that's
Mhm.
what you need to do to feel comfortable, it's like I'm not holding you hostage, but I never want to make someone feel like they can't do something. So seeing people do that is really exciting. And then something really great is actually just recently, not last week, but the week before when I was teaching, we have a member, you have a member, and she's incredibly strong, been coming forever. Um, Her form is fantastic, but I always noticed something wasn't connecting.
Mhm.
And that's somebody I went and I researched different cues. And just this past time I was teaching, I gave her a different cue and just kind of like adjusted her form slightly. And like her face just like lit up. She was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so different. That's so hard." And that's somebody who is seasoned, who knows what they're doing. And, to see how excited they get when they're like, "Oh yeah, this is really hard," but like in an excited way, because that's that's how I get, is just it's really fulfilling. So I think, two sides of the coin, right? So um I love it. And then I love your one client. I haven't had the pleasure of teaching her in my class, which I completely get. But I just love seeing women in their 80s that are like climbing on the reformer, getting it done. Like I want to be that person someday. So not only do I hope to inspire them, but they inspire me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the amazing things. We have in the studio dedicated seniors classes. We have dedicated men's classes. I have several couples that are taking privates together. And that's a new thing in the last like 3 months that kind of blows my mind, but I'm super excited about it because
So fun.
it's amazing. First of all, it's hot that they're taking a class as a couple.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
it's also really amazing because um like people, when we talk about our seniors, the funny thing is that everybody else in the studio is starting to figure out that the seniors who I call the OGs here because a lot of them have been
Yeah, of
with me since I first started teaching.
course you do. Yeah.
They have just as much mobility and sometimes more than our other clients who are not seniors. And so we've had a couple people, especially of late, drop into the seniors class and they're like, I couldn't get in at any other time. One of the gals is actually, she went through teacher training and she did it just for her own edification, not because she wanted to teach. And she at the end of class, she was like, that was no different. And I'm like, right, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, you're like, "Shh,
and
they
and
can
I
do it."
think yeah, but I think there is something really magical about the concept that these women who a lot of them did not they were not exercisers through their life. They were a lot like me. They weren't athletes. They weren't these big movers through their whole life and they, either had a doctor tell them they needed to move or a doctor recommended Pilates or they came out of PT and somebody said Pilates and so here they are and they are strong. They are absolute badasses going through an amazing amount of movement and blowing everybody else out of the water. My favorite thing was last year, Ellen, who is going to be 82 this
That's
year.
what I was talking about. She's
Yeah. So
amazing. Yeah.
Ellen literally counts her reps through class. So if we're doing footwork, she's going to count and everybody else in the class is like, "How many are we doing? How many, Ellen? What are we doing?" They're like, "Wait a minute." And a lot of those women, because now we've kind of switched Ellen's schedule, so she's in with a really good group of gals that are closer to her age. They were like, "Wait a minute. Well, this is like next level. Like we haven't been doing this hard." And I'm like, "Ellen's in class now. We gotta do
Yeah, you better
everything."
catch up.
Yeah. So it's been
That is so
it's been
cute.
amazing, and I think that says a lot about a couple things. It says a lot about our clients, but it also says a lot about our desire to make that impact with our clients, and I love that, you're seeing the same thing in Matt too. I think that's such a magical part of what we do. Um, so if I know what I say, but I would love to hear your input. So, if someone says, "Well, I can't do this. I don't know, I'm on the fence." What are your thoughts about how to talk to that person or the things that you share with people about Pilates?
Yeah, and I think definitely with the blow up of Pilates on social media, I get that a lot more, especially when I'm targeting a little bit, older somebody's, an older generation is asking me, and I really want to remind them like it's never too late to start. You know, these exercises, like I said, are functional. Um, Pilates meets you where you are. If again, having the right instructor, they meet you where you are. They make sure it's right for your body. Like you don't have to be flexible and strong to start. You just need to be willing to learn the form and try your best. I think the other thing is it's not a much. I like to talk like Pilates isn't about like push through, get it, like the other sports. It's more like come up to uncomfortable and take a step back, and that's where you wanna live. Unless,
Mhm.
it's you're very practiced and "Okay, this is just me building muscle," and then you wanna go for it and your form is great, fine, but, like, I never want anybody to be in pain, and if you are, I'm not doing my job as an instructor to give you the right cues or show you the, modification or things like that. But back to, like, you don't need to be killing yourself every class. You don't need to be walking out with, like, shaking legs. It's more, like I said, about feeling confident and flexible, and it's more about consistency
Mhm.
than anything. So, if you wanna start, go 3 times a week, go 4 times a week, go 5 times a week, whatever you have time for. Um, but it meets you where you are. You don't need any prerequisites to start. Um, and the goal like I said, I like to say that this is not a performance, and not only am I saying that for myself, but I'm telling them. I make it sound like I'm saying it for myself, like it's a group project, but I also don't want them to feel like it's a performance. Like it's the goal is to feel better, and it's called a practice for a reason. Um, so I think those are my big talking points. The other thing is try it. You don't like it, like you could go, but like find the right instructor. And even if you can't do everything, they should make you feel welcome and meet you where you are and give you those modifications and alternatives.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As you were talking, I was thinking about what I say, which is that we work in a stoplight of pain. And I think a lot of times people come into Pilates and they're like, wait, I'm not supposed to hurt in Pilates. I'm like, who told you that? Not so I always say we work in a stoplight of pain. So the red is sharp shooting pain, that there's an injury, something's wrong. Yellow
Yes.
is we have tension. So either tension in the muscle or something's challenging, or we're in that space of difficulty. And then green is I feel nothing. So I tell people there's nothing wrong with being in that yellow zone, but we want to stay out of the red. And if we're in the green, then we're not doing enough work. So it's,
I love
finding
that.
that space. Yeah. And then we also talk a lot about like delayed onset muscle soreness. Like we're having that
Moms
talk
will
this
get
week.
you.
We're having that talk
Yeah.
this week in the studio because people are like, I am so sore from class the other day. And I'm like, good. And they're like, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be sore. I'm like, who told you we weren't supposed to be sore? If we are not hypertrophying your muscle, if we are not pushing your muscle to its end range, we're not going to get you stronger. So there is a level of soreness that we expect, but we don't want any of that sharp shooting pain. We don't want to feel any kind of tearing or shearing in the body. And so, even like this week, even today, as I've been teaching classes, I've gone through and kind of qualified pain for people because we've had a couple of people be like, oh, I think I injured myself. And I mean, I don't know because that's out of my scope of practice, but I've absolutely said, here's what you want to look for to determine if we have an injury or if we just have some tension because we've done something different in the body. And I think that the magic of Pilates is that, like, I did a really slow class at the end of last week, and people came in this week and they were like, I was so sore and we moved so slow. I don't understand. And I'm like, we isolated.
Tension.
Hmm.
People
Hmm.
underestimate it. I
Yeah.
try to tell them, doesn't matter how many reps, all about time under tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that where we've gone in the studio as far as our theming and our focus of teaching has really started to enlighten our clients. And I'm very excited about the next season and what's to come. Um, and as part of, what I love about teaching in our studio and what I love about having you in the studio. So, for you, what are kind of some of the takeaways that you want people to leave from a class feeling or seeing or teaching, or kind of like where do you want them to be in their body when they walk out the door?
Yeah. I mean, I want them to feel good. I want them, I do this thing at the end of my class where we inhale through our nose as we bring our arms up overhead. And at the beginning, we're just exhaling through our mouth, just kind of like getting rid of that stale air. I tell everybody this is the hokiest part of my class. And at the end, I have them all do this like weird, I'm like, I'm being weird, be weird with me. And we do this really loud sigh out as we're exhaling. And we do it a few times. And I hope that that leaves them, you feel good. You've let the tension out of your body. You're running high off those endorphins. I want them to feel stronger, happier, confident, um, more aware of their body. Like, I want you to be able to go out there and, step off the curb correctly and do this and not fall over. Have a better understanding. I tend to prattle on while I want them to hold things and I make them think I don't know what I'm talking about. Um, Meaning, like, I always
You
tell them,
just
like, I
admitted that.
strategically time these rants so that you guys have to hold it longer. I hope you've realized that. But I
Stop
like to tell
telling
them,
our
like,
secrets.
hey, we're working on this, right? I'm like, oh, wait, secret, my bad. You know, this is what the muscle we're working on. And studies, have proven women live longer with more muscle mass on their lower
Yeah.
body and,
Yeah.
talking about getting rid of tech neck and sitting up correctly. And that's why we do a lot of posterior chain work. And, I love just dropping those tidbits. And I hope that people walk away going, not only did I do this, you know, to better my like physical body, but like mentally and for my future and sustainability and longevity, they feel really good and they feel empowered because I am a natural cheerleader. I can't help myself, but also supported. So I think those are like the really big things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So this interview is bittersweet because we know that I'm going to get all choked up. I'm getting very verklempt right now. So we know your husband is in foreign service and you guys have been restationed. And so you guys are going to North Carolina. Um, but you are not getting rid of Pilates. You are actually going on to get the rest of your certification and continue the work. And so um, I'm so excited that you've been with us. It has been such a joy to have you with us. And I'm so grateful that um, that everything just kind of fit. I feel like it was just a little puzzle piece that just kind of fit together to have you in the studio, and I'm grateful for the time. And so you'll be with us through the end of June. I think your last class is the weekend after the 4th of July, and then you guys are
Yep,
off. Yeah.
the
And
11th.
then you guys
Yeah, and
are
then
how long
we'll
are you
move the
guys
next week.
in? I know. How long are you guys in Greensboro? What's your placement there
I
length?
think we're hoping to be there at least 3 years, which will literally be the longest we've ever gotten to live somewhere as a married couple. We've been married for almost 10 years. So it's pretty crazy, but I'm really hoping to be there 3 to 4 years. What's nice is it's only like 2.5 hours away. So if I'm really, really homesick for the studio, I can always come visit. But I'm really excited to extend my practice and hopefully, find the right studio like I did
Yeah.
with you guys when I head there. So
Yeah, yeah, and please keep us posted because I know that we will want to see you and watch your journey and cheer you on as much as you've cheered everybody else on, and it's been great. I'm so grateful that we got to have this time and got to talk Pilates and all the things and hear a little bit more about you and your passion for this amazing method of movement, and so thank you for being here, and for people to stay in contact with you, you are on social.
yes,
We'll put your social media in the show notes so they can follow you and kind of keep in contact with you, especially if they're on vacay, they can come pop down and take a class with
absolutely.
you
I
when
want
you
all the
return.
visitors. That sounds great.
I love it. Thank you, Alyssa, for being with us
Thank
and
you,
for
Heather.
being part of this. And I'm really grateful that we got to do this together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and asking the question, hey Heather, what about? I hope we inspired you to create a lifestyle for longevity. You deserve it. If something sparked a shift for you today, don't keep it to yourself. Pass it to a friend. Leave us a review to help others find us. Be sure to hit that follow button so you never miss a moment of real talk and real transformation. Ready to start your wellness journey? Visit theexquisitehouse.com to join us in the studio or learn more about The Plan, our signature program for nutrition, movement, and midlife transformation. And remember, keep asking questions. I'll be here with answers.